PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and on this edition of Vegas Hockey Hub Recap, we break down every single game of the Vegas Golden Knights season. We are going to be talking about the most recent game that happened between the Vegas Golden Knights and Tampa Bay Lightning. Man, oh man, what an interesting game this was. There's going to be a lot of twists, a lot of turns. There's going to be some positives, definitely going to be some negatives, but this is going to be a fascinating game to recap and kind of break down from start to finish. So we'll be doing all of that here on Vegas Hockey Hub. If you have a second, go to www.prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. Check out all the amazing content we have on there, over a dozen shows on the platform. And then we also have our social media accounts at Vegas Hockey Hub. And if you want to follow me, I'm right down there at Ian J. Rachiele. So overall, the Golden Knights and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, over the last couple of years, this has actually been some of the best matchups the Golden Knights have had in terms of goal scoring, in terms of just firepower, in terms of ammunition. The Vegas Golden Knights and Tampa Bay Lightning have been some of the most action-packed games ever since really 2017. I mean, this has been about 8 seasons worth of some good back and forth action between the two. Now, let's get into pregame notes here on Vegas Hockey Hub. For the roster moves, Victor Olofsson. Now, this was expected considering the injury that he suffered against the Washington Capitals, but Victor Olofsson is out of the starting lineup, and Brendan Brisson is now back in to the starting lineup for your Vegas Golden Knights. So for Tampa Bay, you have them, their current roster, their starting lineup and everything there. But for your Vegas Golden Knights, the lines are kind of the same for the most part. There's a few changes that we will go over when we go over the starting lineup just in a second. But overall, when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights, with Brendan Brisson being back in the lineup, with the Vegas Golden Knights not having Victor Olofsson as he will be out for a while, it's going to be really interesting to see how the chemistry goes and to see how really the team plays as a unit, because there is a few lines that were changed because of the Victor Olofsson injury. And overall, when it comes to the forward lines and everything there has actually been a change on the fourth line that is going to be very beneficial, and we'll go over all of that. But overall, for the roster moves, with Victor Olofsson being gone, Brendan Brisson being in, and there is no update on William Karlsson. So we're going to have to still wait and see how long it's going to take for William Karlsson to be back in the starting lineup for your Vegas Golden Knights. But 5 games in, Victor Olofsson not in the lineup, and William Karlsson not in the lineup. Now, getting into the forward lines, heading into the game against Tampa Bay, and Ivan Barbashev, Jack Eichel, and Mark Stone on line 1. To be expected, this is no shock at all. Victor Olofsson, him being gone is unfortunate because his 3 goals, but Ivan Barbashev has been an elite goal scorer so far. Jack Eichel, he has been really good at getting the puck to Barbashev, and then Ivan Barbashev, and then Mark Stone. Mark Stone is a really fascinating situation because as a captain, he has done both sides very well so far. Now, forward line 2 is where the first change did happen, as Tanner Pearson has been promoted from line 4 up to line 2. He'll be there with Tomas Hertl and Pavel Dorofeyev. So Hertl and Dorofeyev are still on line 2. Pearson has been promoted. And then forward line 3, a bunch of the youngsters on the team, as you have Cole Schwinn, you have Alexander Holtz, and Brendan Brisson. So Holtz goes from line 2 down to line 3. Schwinn goes up from line 4 to line 3, and then goes from a healthy scratch back into the starting lineup is Brendan Brisson. And then forward line 4, this has actually been a line we have seen in the past. So welcome back to Brett Howden, Nicholas Waugh, and Keegan Kolazar for your Vegas Golden Knights. So You have two lines that have a really good chemistry in line 1 and line 4. You have Pearson, who has done a really stellar job in terms of what he did in the preseason and training camp. And then the first 5 games, he has shown why he earned a roster spot. And then you have Dorofeyev and Hurdle, who have actually kind of shown some good progress over the last year and a half. Really have seen Dorofeyev. He's progressed as a prospect. And then Hurdle ever since he was acquired at the trade deadline from San Jose. So what he did in the playoffs, a little bit of the regular season last year, and then the first 5 games of the regular season this year. The major shakeup is that forward line 3, as you do have Bryson, Schwinn, and Holtz, and we'll see how they do in this game. Now, defensive pairings are the exact same all 5 games so far. You have Petrangelo and Theodore. You have McNabb and Whitecloud, Haig and Hannafin as your defensive pairings for your Vegas Golden Knights. And then in net for the 4th time in 5 games, as Aiden Hill would go up against Tampa Bay, and Andre Vasilevsky, the 2-time Stanley Cup champion, would be on the opposing side for Tampa Bay. And this game actually started out relatively well, as the Vegas Golden Knights had some energy. They were showing some actual good shifts. There were some shots that could have gone in, but 5 minutes into the first period, an original misfit, Nabber, Brayden McNabb, first goal of the season for him, assisted by Jack Eichel and Mark Stone. So, interesting fact here, Mark Stone, 7 assists on the year already. Jack Eichel, 7 assists already on the year. So, overall, for Mark Stone and Jack Eichel, for you to already have a nice pair of assists to begin the year is the reason why Mark Stone has 9 points on the year, 2 goals and 7 assists. And then Jack Eichel, we will see him once again later in the period. But yeah, Brayden McNabb to get on the goal sheet for the 24-25 season, that's good for him. Mark Stone collecting his 9th point of the year. And then up to that point, Jack Eichel was at 9 points on the year as well. Halfway into the first period, Tampa Bay would get on the board as defenseman J.J. Moser would actually score for them, assisted by Cam Atkinson. So Tampa Bay, 2 new guys in the organization. J.J. Moser, he actually was with the Arizona Coyotes last year and was supposed to go to Utah, but he actually got dealt alongside Connor Geekie and a mid-level draft pick for Mikhail Sergachev. So for Moser, this is actually a good move for him. And then Cam Atkinson, the longtime Columbus Blue Jacket, he is now over in Tampa Bay after spending a few seasons over in Philadelphia. So yeah, for 2 new guys at Atkinson and Moser, for those 2 to actually be a part of this first goal, that is good for them. I like what we've seen so far when it comes to Atkinson and Moser. And then, continuing this game out there at the Amalie Arena out there in Tampa Bay, after a roughing penalty to Connor Geekie, he would go to the penalty box for Tampa Bay, and your Vegas Golden Knights would be on the NV Energy power play. And if you need someone to score a power play goal, all right, if you need someone to put the puck in the back of the net, he did it multiple times in the preseason. He has shown that he is very capable last year during the regular season, and he is just getting better and better every year as he's progressing. But Pavel Dorofeyev, with his 2nd goal of the season on the power play, assisted by Jack Eichel and Shea Theodore, and that would make it a 2-1 game for Vegas. So Jack Eichel, 8th assist of the season, his 10th point of the year. And then Shea Theodore, I have to give him credit. Shea Theodore, he has actually had, in terms of defensemen, he has done a really good job this year. Shea Theodore, so far this season, only 1 goal, but he had collected his 6th point of the season for the Vegas Golden Knights on that Pavel Dorofeyev assist. So, you're up 2-1. About 5 minutes left in the first period. The time is winding down. All right, you got about 15 seconds left in the first period. Seemed like it was about to come to a close. Vegas would be up 2-1. Oh, nah. Tampa Bay gets on the board as Nikita Kucherov with an assist from Jake Guentzel would be a 2-2 game with 15 seconds left. Nikita Kucherov, 5th goal of the season, and just like that, Tampa Bay, they would actually be on the board and would tie it up at 2 at the end of the first period. I'm not going to sit here and bash anybody. I'm not going to critique anybody. I'm not going to blame anybody. But in terms of responsibility, I do wonder who was to blame for that goal. You know, like in terms of responsibility, you know, who was going to take responsibility for Nikita Kucherov scoring that goal? I mean, you could blame the defense, or you could say the defense is responsible for that goal. But in all honesty, in all actuality, in terms of responsibility, I actually am going to sit here and say that when it comes to Aiden Hill, what has he done, you know, in that goal? You know, in that situation, what could have he done? So, you know, a very unfortunate situation there, but 2-2 at the end of the first period. And then moving over to the second period, this would actually be a good situation for Vegas, as not even 2 minutes into the second period, Ivan Barbashev with his 4th goal of the season for your Golden Knights, assisted by Shea Theodore, who did a actually really good assist here. His 6th assist of the season, 7 points on the year for Shea Theodore. And overall, for Ivan Barbashev, I mean, he had blocked shots, he had hits, he had some really good goal opportunities here. So overall, for Ivan Barbashev, he did a relatively good job in this game tonight when it came to the Vegas Golden Knights. I like what we saw from Ivan Barbashev. Compared to his slow start last year, Ivan Barbashev has had a hot start to the year. In fact, this is actually from the Vegas Golden Knights Stats and Information Twitter account. This is actually the best performance that Ivan Barbashev has had 5 games into the season. So I have to give him credit there. And then the rest of the second period was just too many penalties, as there would be a slashing call against Jack Eichel. Golden Knights would be on the power play. And despite a goal opportunity from Pavel Dorofeyev, the chance to make it his 2nd goal of the game, it just did not connect. So there was no goal on that situation. And then about 4 minutes left in the second period, there was back-to-back penalties in a span of about half a minute for your Vegas Golden Knights, as there would actually be a Zach Whitecloud slashing penalty, just lack of discipline by Zach Whitecloud. Been a reoccurring theme the last 5 games so far. Zach Whitecloud going to the penalty box, and then the Golden Knights would be charged with a too many men on the ice penalty. Brendan Bryson would have to go to the penalty box to serve that. And what's really fortunate for the Golden Knights is that despite being on a 5-on-3 penalty kill, they killed off both penalties. So I have to give a round of applause to the Vegas Golden Knights for doing that. So for Vegas, you have to actually kind of give them credit for killing off not one, but both of their penalties in this game. For 2 for 2 on the penalty kill for Vegas. So they did relatively well in that category there. Now, the third period, I'm going to put it to you like this. The first 15 minutes was good. You had some good line changes. There was actually one scoring opportunity by Tomas Hertl that just did not connect. Alexander Holtz, he whiffed on another shot opportunity that could have gone the back of the net. Has actually been not the second, but third time now that we've seen Alexander Holtz kind of whiff on a scoring opportunity for Vegas. But for first 15 minutes of the third period, your Vegas Golden Knights were in control. They were going to win this game. It looked like it was game over for the Vegas Golden Knights. I hit the microphone, but it looked like it was game over for Vegas. You know, they were going to pick up the win. They were going to get 2 points, and they were going to go over to Florida 2 days later, and they were going to try to ride some momentum. But did that happen, though? Did that happen with the Vegas Golden Knights? No, it did not. As about 2.5 minutes left in the third period, defensively, there was some mistakes that were made. And that led to a Brandon Hagel second goal of the season for him, assisted by J.J. Moser, who actually scored the first goal for Tampa Bay. And just like that, 2.5 minutes left, you are now tied at 3. Okay, you know what? Regulation, you know what? Go into overtime. There's going to be a chance to win this game. You know what? Very confident in Vegas' ability. Let's head into overtime. But did that happen, though? The answer is no. What ended up happening is that defensive mistakes were made. And with about 55 seconds left in the game, Victor Hedman, J.J. Moser over to Kucherov, 6th goal of the season, 2nd of the game for Nikita Kucherov, and your Vegas Golden Knights lose 4-3 against Tampa Bay. So, being professional, you have to sit there and say, what went wrong for Vegas? Being professional, you're not going to blame the goaltending. Trying to be more positive, I'm not going to rip all defense for what happened. Instead, let's just move on from it. Let's move on from the sloppy defensive play in the last 5 minutes and just say, you know what? The game got away from Vegas. Tampa Bay took advantage of the situation, and Vegas is now 3-2-0 on the season. Instead of being 4-1-0, you are now 3-2-0. So, disappointing ending. It was kind of an unfortunate situation that happened at the end of the game. But Florida, that's going to be on Saturday. Hopefully, they can end this road stand with a victory. 2 points out of 6. It's not great, but it's better than 0. Because what Vegas does not want to do is lose to Florida, be 500, and get 0 points on a road trip. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, you would have even been contempt with an overtime loss. At least that would have been 1 point for Vegas. But to be up with 5 minutes left in this game and to allow 2 goals in the span of 90 seconds and for Vegas to go from 2 points down to 0. Very unfortunate. Disappointing. It was just a lousy ending to the game. And for Bruce Cassidy, it's going to be interesting to see if there's any line changes for Florida. We're going to do the Vegas Hockey Hub recap for that Florida game as well. We upload it at 8 a.m. the next morning. Reason why is because of the fact that that is what our schedule is. That is our allotted time slot. So at 8 a.m. on the next day after the Florida game, expect Vegas Hockey Hub recap to be here, to be live on PR Connections Radio with your host, Ian Rachiele. And since we have about 75 seconds left on the air, I just want to quickly do Player of the Game. And even though Player of the Game kind of feels cheap, considering what happened in this game, I'm actually going to give Player of the Game to someone who defensively was not the problem. Going to give Player of the Game to someone who actually did their job, and I'm going to give it to Brayden McNabb. Brayden McNabb, during this game, was someone who, not only did he score that first goal for Vegas, but for Brayden McNabb, this is someone that if you look at the box score and look at the score sheet, this is someone at Brayden McNabb who not only were blocking shots all night, he was putting up hits, but he was on the ice for 20 solid minutes against Tampa Bay. So for Brayden McNabb, he is Player of the Game. Before they lost, I was thinking about maybe giving it to Aiden Hill, but I kind of refrained myself considering what happened in those last 5 minutes. So, your Vegas Golden Knights, 3-2-0, like I mentioned. And hopefully the next game against Florida will be a better result for your Vegas Golden Knights. So until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. This is Vegas Hockey Hub. And go Knights, go.